Imagine 3 feet of reinforced concrete separating you from a mountain of gold. That is the floor of the Lloyds Bank vault in 1971, basically a concrete bunker designed to make any thief just go home and take up knitting. But our friend Jimmy doesn't do knitting. He does bad ideas. Now, normally you would need a degree in structural engineering to crack this nut, but Jimmy just has a library card and a fixation on Sherlock Holmes. He's basing his entire life plan on the Red-Headed League, a story where the villains dig a tunnel into a bank. High-risk, low-reward literature. Step 1. Get inside. You can't just walk into a vault, so the gang sends in Reg Tucker. He opens a bank account with £500 just to get a legitimate reason to stand in the lobby without the security guards tackling him into a wastebasket. Once inside, Reg doesn't use high-tech scanners. No, he uses a sturdy umbrella and his own arm span to measure the distance to the vault. He's literally mapping $1 million security system with a rain accessory, while the tellers just assume he's a very eccentric Englishman. To make it a science, they use the 9-inch floor tiles as a coordinate system. Jimmy draws a map with a crayon, marking the exact spot where the concrete is thinnest. It is the most sophisticated piece of art ever produced by someone who can't draw a circle. Next, they needed tools. Not a lockpick or a hacking device, but a 100-ton hydraulic jack and a thermal lance. Jimmy tries to carry the jack and immediately collapses under the weight of his own ambition. You can't just dig a hole in the middle of the sidewalk, so they rent a leather shop called Le Sac, located 2 doors down from the bank. A leather shop is the perfect cover because it smells like old cows, which masks the smell of desperation. Jimmy spends hours with a spirit level, confirming that the basement of the leather shop is perfectly aligned with the bank vault. It is a mathematical miracle of city planning that the shop floor is just a few feet above the target. Then, luck strikes. Local roadworks are causing the bank's trembler alarms to go off constantly, so the staff just turns the security system off. Jimmy does a little victory dance, unaware that relying on luck is usually how these stories end in a prison cell. Friday night, August 1971. The shop is closed, the street is quiet, and Jimmy takes his first swing with a shovel. He's not just digging a hole, he's digging his own grave, though he thinks he's digging a gold mine. To avoid suspicion, they only dig on weekends. Now, digging a tunnel for 3 weekends is a lot of work. If you want to learn how to steal millions without actually getting your hands dirty, hit that subscribe button. It's the only legal way to join a criminal syndicate of viewers. Here's the problem. Dirt doesn't just disappear. They ended up with 8 long tons of waste earth filling the leather shop. Jimmy is now basically living in a giant sandbox, spending more time moving dirt than actually stealing money. The tunnel takes them right under a local restaurant. Jimmy stops digging for a moment because he can smell fried chicken through the ceiling. He's starving, he's covered in mud, and he's currently the only man in London eating dinner via osmosis. After weeks of agony, they hit the 40-foot milestone. The tunnel is a magnificent piece of engineering, provided your definition of magnificent is a claustrophobic dirt tube that smells like a sewer. They have finally reached the base of the vault. They spend hours carving out a 7 by 4 foot cavity directly beneath the vault floor. Jimmy is starting to feel a bit claustrophobic, but the thought of gold bars keeps him from having a full-blown ink meltdown. Time for the breach. They place the 100-ton jack on railway sleepers, intending to punch through the reinforced concrete like a soda can. Jimmy looks at the jack with a level of confidence that is honestly terrifying. They pump the jack. They push, and then the floor doesn't go up, it goes down. The jack pushed the entire floor into an old, forgotten Victorian well. Jimmy falls straight through the hole into a pit of darkness. Plan A is a failure. Plan B is the thermal lance, a tool that burns at temperatures hot enough to melt a tank. Jimmy puts on oversized goggles and starts trying to burn a hole through the ceiling. The problem with burning through concrete in a tiny tunnel is that the smoke has nowhere to go. Within minutes, the tunnel is a toxic gas chamber. Jimmy is now coughing up ink clouds and wondering if the gold is worth the lung damage. Desperate times call for explosive measures. They drill holes into the floor and pack them with gelignite. Jimmy holds a match with shaking hands, realizing that if he messes this up, He becomes a permanent part of the city's foundation. They don't just blow it, they coordinate the blast with the loud noise of street traffic above to mask the sound. It's a tactical masterpiece of timing, assuming the city's traffic is consistently loud enough to hide a bomb. Boom. A 12-inch hole is blasted into the vault. The force of the blast launches Jimmy upward, pinning him against the ceiling of his own tunnel. But they're in. Now comes the glamorous part. Manual labor. They spend hours using a hammer and chisel to widen the hole to 12 by 14 inches. Jimmy is sweating pixels, wondering why he didn't just get a job in accounting. Finally, the opening is wide enough. Jimmy squeezes his stickman body through the gap and crawls into the vault. He's finally inside the impenetrable box, and all it took was a month of living like a mole. The payday is glorious. They crack open 268 safety deposit boxes. Jimmy is literally swimming in jewelry, banknotes, and secrets. He's finally rich, or at least he will be if he can get out. While Jimmy is looting, a lookout is perched on a nearby rooftop with a walkie-talkie, keeping an eye on the street. Jimmy gives a thumbs up from the hole, thinking they are invisible ghosts in the night. But here's the problem. It's 1971. Walkie-talkies back then had the encryption level of a postcard. Anyone with a basic receiver and a bit of boredom could hear every single word the gang was saying. Enter Robert Rowlands. He's an amateur radio enthusiast in a nearby flat who just happens to be scanning the frequencies. He starts hearing a group of men discussing a bank heist in real time. Rowlands calls the police, but the cops think it's a prank. They tell him to just keep recording it for them. The police are just as incompetent as Jimmy, creating a perfect storm of institutional laziness. Rowlands records everything on a cassette tape. He captures the gang arguing, complaining about the heat, and even taking breaks. The entire heist is being narrated to a random nerd in his pajamas. Here is a fun thought for the comments section. Is it actually a crime if the police hear the thieves on the radio for 4 hours and do absolutely nothing? Who is the real thief here, the gang, or the bank's insurance company? Then, the internal drama hits. The lookout on the roof has a complete meltdown. He yells, "Money may be your god, but it's not mine," and tries to quit the heist mid-robbery. Just as the heist is falling apart due to HR issues, a mysterious woman's voice comes over the radio, calmly ordering the lookout to stay in position. Who is she? The mastermind? Or just someone who hates the lookout? Rowlands has had enough and calls Scotland Yard directly. This time they listen. The flying squad is deployed, and the police begin a frantic search of every bank in the area. The net is finally closing. The police are so clueless, they search 750 different banks in an 8-mile radius. Jimmy is hiding in a safety deposit box, watching the police search the wrong buildings for hours. Eventually, the police reach the Baker Street vault. But there is a catch. The vault is time-locked. They can't get in, and Jimmy is inside, holding his breath and praying the lock holds. The final radio transmission comes through. Would you like to change to the other channel? By the time the police figure out what that means, Jimmy and his crew have vanished back through the tunnel. Monday morning arrives, the bank staff open the vault and find a hole in the floor and 268 empty boxes. Jimmy is already home, eating a sandwich and enjoying his stolen retirement. But then, the rookie mistake surfaces. The police check the lease for the leather shop and find it was signed in the real name of one of the gang members, Benjamin Wolfe. Jimmy face palms. The most expensive lease in history. The aftermath is weirder still. The government issued a D notice to keep certain items out of the news rumors of compromising photos of Princess Margaret. The files are sealed until 271. Subscribe if you think the government is still hiding the loot.